Start recording, yes. And now up here I should get a notice that CIDER has started streaming. Check over here. Nope, it's this window.
Sounds very familiar.
Yeah, alright. It says the stream has started.
Yep, I see a stream.
Okay. Let's go back here, live stream.
Okay, I have a question.
So well,
Oh my God.
let's do our official introduction.
Oh, okay.
Shirley
No,
is
this is
out of town today. Oh, non-CIDER
no.
related?
It's just easy. I just got home from physical therapy. I might have to do a couple things. How do I get off the screen? I can't remember.
Click the camera icon to turn off your camera at the bottom center of the
Okay.
screen.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry to interrupt. I
That's
just
okay.
wanted. Thank you.
Um, neither of our vice presidents are here tonight, are they? So Shirley's out of town. Welcome everyone to the October 9th Apple Cider General Meeting. And I'm going to click this button here. So now we're sending the feed. Oh, there's a vice president. You want to run the meeting, Ken?
What? Sure.
In the absence of a president, the vice
Motion
president.
to adjourn?
Yeah. We got to at least wait until Adam comes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Alrighty. Yes, Charlie, you're muted, so unmute yourself, and then we'll take Bob's question too.
The usual thing, if you can boost your volume going into YouTube, please do.
Sound input. Crank it up. Or just talk louder, and then it's too loud for everything else, right? Alright, not going to
Hello.
Oops.
The audience voices are fine, but
Okay, that's good. Click that. I gotta mute the other computer. Okay. So we're getting audio from both places. YouTube is working. Mastermind is working. All right. All right. So Bob had a question from
Wendy Smith.
Wendy Smith. Yeah, she emailed me, but I haven't got to it yet. The fonts in Sonoma's mail program. Can I share my window? Over here. Share screen. I want to do a window. So I can't do both of the windows. So trying to change the font display in the mail program. So in the settings under fonts and colors, you can pick 3 different categories of font: message list font, the message font itself, and the fixed width font. And then when I click on one of those to select it, so she's doing probably the message font, probably, right? So if I do message font, we get a new window. And let me share a different window, which is... Oh, I can't share my list of fonts.
Are you running Sonoma?
Yes.
Okay.
But when you click on that message font, it brings up a whole list of all the fonts you have installed. So her question was, she likes Century Gothic. And let me go through. Yeah, I don't see Century Gothic listed. So I don't have that font loaded, so I can't display it. She says it's in the list, but it's grayed out. So I don't know what that would mean. So wherever she
Could
got,
it mean that she doesn't have the font either, or it needs to be downloaded, or it doesn't work?
if she doesn't have it installed, it shouldn't be listed in her font list. But it could be that it's not installed. So let me open the Fonts app and see if Century is a built-in font or if you have to install that Century later. Yeah.
Well, in her case, it's grayed out. In your case here, it's not there at all. Is that correct?
Right. So I don't have it installed, so it doesn't let me pick it. She may need to re-download it from wherever she got it from. I'd usually just use Helvetica. But
Maybe it's not a true type font or something.
let me see, can we tell who created Century Gothic? And then I can change my window sharing. So it looks like it was designed by Monotype in the 90s. Similar to Bauer Futura, but it looks like you can download it from online-fonts.com. I just googled Century Gothic font and it found a place to download it. So there's 2 typefaces in 66 languages. So download.
Is it a free font?
It appears to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, my download started. And I can go to the downloads folder. And yeah, it's a true type font. So let me see if I can install it. Probably have to quit and relaunch Mail before it'll show in an open program. So fonts. I'm gonna copy those 2 fonts into my fonts folder. Okay. Now we'll quit Mail. And launch Mail again. And settings, preferences. Century Gothic. Okay, now go back to share. Stop sharing that tab. And start sharing the mail window. There we are. So Century Gothic, now I've got it installed. It shows up and is usable as a font in the program. So she may need to download a new version of it or pick a different font.
Okay, I've taken notes on all this, and I'll try to explain it to her. But this is being recorded, right?
Yes.
Yeah, she can watch it on YouTube.
Video on YouTube also.
Okay.
So Century Gothic is a thinner font than Helvetica was that I normally use. So if I change that to Helvetica, Helvetica's a little thicker strokes. I'll change mine to Century for a little while and see what it looks like. And turn that sharing off. Okay, all right, Rick, you had a hand up.
Yes, I was wondering if there's a website that lists all of the Mac viruses and Trojans.
There are no Mac viruses.
Oh, so there's still no Mac viruses. Okay, that's good to know.
There were some in the very early days, in classic OS 9 days. It depends on how you define a virus. The strictest definition is a self-replicating program. Most of the programs we see now are just malicious software, not actually a virus. They trick you into installing it.
So what are they, key loggers or something?
Most of the time they're ad generators. Search hijackers that hijack your web homepage so you think you're at Google and you're not. And so you get fake results to download fake programs. So here's an article from Macworld last year. How far down do we get? Yeah, most of the threats on the Mac side are adware and crapware. There's a lot of cleaning programs that claim to be able to clean out crap in your system, but they themselves are the crap, which is kind of funny. So I just Googled list of Mac malware. Most of the time it's a ad on a website that claims that you're infected with a virus, and then they trick you into calling fake tech support so they can get into your computer and rummage around finding your password list, or watch you type into your bank account so that they can get your password. We've had to start telling
So
people.
that would be defined as what, a Trojan horse?
Well, it's an advertisement that's lying. So a fake ad.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, I can read that article.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
I'm looking for the recording on YouTube. Is there a link for that? I'm getting CIDER stuff.
Yeah, it's on the Apple Cider webpage. It should be the first link, Apple Cider live stream, 2024 10/9. So
AppleCider.org on YouTube.
Rochester Apple Cider.
Oh.
Or you can click the link on our homepage. And the first link is the live stream. So on the Cider homepage under links, we have the YouTube video stream as well, and that takes you to the same place.
I see. The RochesterAppleCider.org. Got it.
No, just the website is applecider.org. The YouTube channel is Rochester Apple Cider.
Yeah, that's what I put in.
No .org on the YouTube.
Okay. Well, I put it in the search line and it found it anyway.
Yeah, because that's our
I see
website
it.
address. Yep.
I see it with the live link.
Yep.
Yep.
Let me see if I can see her other questions she had. It's always good to have questions. Wendy Smith.
Yeah, it's delayed by about 10 seconds.
So that was from 6:15. Why is it not listed? Let me hang on a minute. Wendy Smith. Oh, there's 2 Wendy Smiths in my address book. Yeah, yesterday she emailed me 3 questions. Okay. I don't see those 3 questions.
Well, the other question I had here was, even defaults my signatures everywhere. Thanks a lot. Talking about Sonoma.
In mail settings, let me go back to that. Is also where you put your signature in. So oops, yeah, mail settings and then signatures. You have the option to match your default font. So whatever she has as her default font, it will use. Or if you uncheck that, the easiest thing to do is make the signature the way you want it to look with the fonts and colors and whatnot in like Word or Pages, and then paste it into the signature line so that it maintains all of that fonts and colors. Because normally it's just a plain straight text based on what your message font is. So my message font is Helvetica 18. I thought I changed that. I did. It hasn't updated yet. So my signature font can be the same. And so part of the problem is email. Email is supposed to be text, but more and more people are sending rich text or even websites through email, and that can be how a lot of fake ads get around. So one of the things you can do to protect yourself is turn off rich text email, so it only does plain text. Except I have to remember where that setting is. But then you don't get all the fancy graphics and stuff that a lot of people like. Viewing. It may not let you do that anymore. Well, Apple has a couple of security things that they built into Mail, where you can tell it to load the message through Apple's server so it can check it before it gets to you, which is probably okay for most people, but it does mean that Apple's servers is looking at all your mail. So hiding IP, one of the ways that the junk mailers track, in fact anyone, we do it too with our bulk mailing program, they track if you read the message or opened the message, is by putting like a blank white pixel in the message that links back to the service. So we can tell when someone opens a message what links they click on, because that's the service we're using. And the bad guys use the same thing in order to track if you open the spam message so they can send you more spam. So most of the time Apple will block those types of messages. In fact, if I go to my fake messages folder, There we are. And then I can change the sharing screen. There we are. So there's a lot of messages flying around. Let me choose the more recent ones. Here I got one from AAA car, free car emergency kit from AAA, and so these are embedded images. Let me see if I can find one that Apple, at the top of the window it will say Apple has blocked the images, so the bad guys can't tell you opened it. That might even be in my junk mail too. Nope, junk mail's empty. That's good. But you get a lot of fake messages quite frequently. Netflix membership account has expired, but it doesn't come from Netflix.com. In fact, it's coming from somebody named Kano at iCloud.com, so that's not Netflix. And you're replying to somebody in Germany.de, Deutschland. So that's a couple ways to tell if the message email is fake or not, if it doesn't come from the person it says it comes from. And so that's a common way the bad guys will try to trick you into turning over credit card information or things like that. Especially with these, oh, you won this thing. Well, if I point to it, I'm going to... one of the tricks is you point to a link, but don't click, and it doesn't show on the screen sharing. When you point to a link and don't click, it shows you where that link is really going. And this one says dnsdyn.net. So you'd think that if you want a car emergency kit from AAA, you'd go to the AAA website. So other ways to tell the message is fake, which is how the bad guys spread their messages to trick you and try to steal your money. There's the one we kind of get a kick out of, where you get a phone call and the call ID says Apple or Microsoft. It's funny how many people will answer a call from Microsoft when they don't have any Microsoft products, or a call that says it's from Apple if they don't have any Apple products. And it will say someone's trying to hack into your computer right now. We have let us help you secure it. And the answer is yes, that you are trying to hack into my computer right now. There is someone, it's you. It's not someone else, it's you. All right, any other questions from the gallery, or I can go into one from Wendy. Search for Wendy Smith in all mailboxes.
Steve, I had an odd error message come up that I wonder if you have run into. I got a preferences error, and and that said could not load internet accounts preference pane. But it was in my system.
You're trying in system settings. You're trying to open preferences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was able to open other preferences, but not the internet accounts. Whenever I try to open the internet accounts, I get that error.
Sometimes quitting and launching system settings will fix it. Sometimes rebooting will fix it.
Well, I think I've tried both of those.
Yeah. It basically means there's something corrupt in that preference file. What you have to do is find that preference file and delete it manually, which is not something the timid need to, or the faint of heart, or novice users.
That's not going to mess up her emails if she does that, will it?
No. It's the list of internet accounts that are set up, and it lets you add more internet accounts and delete internet accounts, but it doesn't change any of the accounts that are already there.
Do we know what the name of that preference file would be?
Nope. Probably something like internetaccounts.plist, but don't know offhand.
And I think it all started, I mean, the reason I even went into the system preferences and clicked on that was because I got a notification. It was a Google-related notification, and it told me that I should do something to internet accounts, log into an internet account or something.
It probably needs you to re-enter your password, so you could do that in the mail program too.
But it didn't make sense because I'm getting all the mail in all my accounts, including the one that relates to Google, to Gmail. So I didn't know why it wanted me to log in the first place. Oh well.
Yeah, I'm Googling around. I've seen it before, and usually rebooting fixes it.
I'll try.
You could try creating a new user and see if the same thing happens in that second user.
Okay, that's something.
That tells you whether it's a user-specific preference or a system-wide preference. But it typically would boil back down to manually delete the preference file and let it rebuild on the next launch. Internet preferences, plist. Yeah, I see one labeled internet accounts.plist in my preferences folder. Last updated November 2015.
Wow.
I haven't changed any of my internet accounts in a while.
All right. Well, we'll try the thing of the user and see if that clarifies anything.
See if that does it. Oh, looks like Douglas is here on the screen. How are you today?
Hi.
Good.
Okay. It's surprisingly cold yesterday and today compared to the nice weather we've been having.
Yep.
I have a question about the functioning of the telephone procedure on my new iMac. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes when a call comes in, it's up there, but not always. And when I try to call out and trying to use my iPhone to on that option for this iMac, I'm not able to turn on the iMac phone. And what am I not doing right?
Probably nothing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. is often fairly common. Generally, you want to make sure you've got FaceTime turned on.
Oh.
And there's a setting to enable your Apple ID.
That's probably what's happening. Is I don't like people to see, how I'm dressed or whatever so I don't use FaceTime. Can I use FaceTime without having an image go out?
Sure, FaceTime audio. That's how phone calls work on the computer, is through FaceTime.
Oh. Okay. Well, if that's the way it works, why is it that sometimes it does work when I'm not doing that?
On your phone and on the computer, you want to make sure that FaceTime is turned on with your Apple ID. And do I have my phone? And do I have my phone?
Is that a permanent turning on or just call by call?
Permanent turning on in the system settings.
Oh, of both the computer and the iPhone?
Yes.
Okay.
And then there's a send and receive option. Can I bring this window up? Yes, I can. And go into settings. And come here and share that screen. Share the settings window. There we are.
Well, I've got it already on for incoming calls for FaceTime.
And you want to make sure your phone number is listed as well as your Apple ID. And that setting you turn on the phone so that it can send phone calls to the computer.
Okay, now I'm still on settings. I go to phone on settings.
FaceTime.
Well, I was just on FaceTime, but the word phone did not appear there.
It wouldn't. You have to select your phone number that you can be reached through FaceTime.
Okay, well, under phone, my number does appear, but let me go back to the FaceTime page. I did not see it there.
That's probably why it doesn't work.
I see incoming calls, announced calls, never.
That doesn't sound like you're in the FaceTime setting.
Well, it says FaceTime up at the top of the
Okay.
phone.
Yeah, keep scrolling. There should be a section to list what numbers you can be reached by.
It does have a check mark next to my phone number and next to my email and next to my email address at iCloud, which I generally do not use the iCloud, just the Gmail. So now the question popped up: do I remove the number from iMessage and FaceTime? So I'll cancel that.
Well, no, because you want to be reached by your phone number.
Well, the question is, do I remove the number from FaceTime?
No, because you want to be replaced. You want to be able to be called by your phone number.
Right.
So your phone number has to be listed and selected.
It is there with a blue check mark.
I would try turning FaceTime off, rebooting, and turning it back on.
Oh.
In that window.
No, by reboot, just turn it off, then back on?
Yeah, turn the phone off and back on again.
Oh, the entire phone?
Yeah, reboot the entire phone.
Oh. Okay. Okay.
Goes to Mac. Let's see. Settings. Okay, there's another setting. According to Apple here. Settings app, also in phone. Yeah, allow calls on other devices.
Oh. Okay, I'm turning the phone back on now, so hopefully I can find what you just said. Are you doing screen share?
Yep.
Okay. I'm using my old computer right now, not the one that has not the new one that I was using the phone on.
Yeah. So you can choose which of your devices you want to send phone calls through. Let me see.
Okay.
If I can bring
my 12-year-old iMac has that capacity?
This is on your phone.
Oh, okay.
Go into settings, phone, calls on other devices.
Okay, so I've just rebooted the entire phone. So now I'm scrolling down to
images. There it is.
I'm scrolling down to FaceTime.
No, phone.
Oh,
yeah, sorry, you got to turn FaceTime back on first.
Yeah, it is on. So now I go to phone.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then calls on other devices.
Oh, Well, I said one nearby. It's authorized when it's they're both on actually, although with the same marker, so maybe it's simply on twice.
There should be an on and off for allow calls, and then it will show you each of your devices signed into your Apple ID that you can turn on or off independently.
Well, one of them says Douglas's apostrophe S iMac. The other says Douglas iMac without that apostrophe.
So that's two different computers with two different names.
Okay, so I don't know which is which, but they're both on. So, but when calls have come in, they've come in only on the new one.
You may not have FaceTime turned on the on the old computer. Or
I probably should have it only on one of them because otherwise I'd be getting echoes and that kind of a conflict between calls if I had them both on or not.
Well, that's only if you answer the call on both computers, which you can't do.
Oh. Okay, well, maybe I should just have it on the old one if that's the one I happen to be using then. So I go to System Preferences, and let's see. Let's see, under System Preferences there, which Bluetooth?
What are you trying to do now?
Well, I'm trying to turn on the telephone function on the old iMac.
In FaceTime.
And I thought I accessed FaceTime through System Preferences, but maybe not.
No, FaceTime is an app in the Applications folder.
Oh, okay.
Let me see what
and it's not App Store that I go to.
The Applications folder on your computer.
Well, I'm not sure how I got there.
Open the hard drive and look on your computer.
Well, I don't know. Hard drive is probably open all the time, isn't it?
No. It's just an icon on the desktop. Try clicking the Finder icon in the dock. That will make a new Finder window also.
Oh.
Let's see. Looks like you need at least iOS 12 to do phone calls on other devices. Let me see what the Mac requirements are.
So I have Finder open.
Then go to Applications.
Okay. I could never have found that without your guidance.
That's where all your applications are to open any application you want.
Oh. Well, this is the old computer is the one that is so overstocked with open tabs that I'm getting that pinwheel.
Oh, you can close some of the tabs.
I keep doing that. I closed 30 yesterday. It still hasn't brought it down adequately. Okay, now it's open. Oh, no, but just momentarily.
That's iOS 18. Chuck, you don't know the system requirements for iPhone calls on the Mac, do you?
I do not.
That's not the handoff feature, is it? Handoff. So Mac handoff system requirements.
Okay, now it's got a list of different apps, and I looked for FaceTime, and here it is. So I click that.
Yep, and then go into Settings, and make sure your Apple ID is turned on and your phone number is turned on.
Okay. And by the way, on the column at the left, it does list Remote Disk, Macintosh HD, and Douglas iMac. So Douglas iMac was probably this one. Do I have to click on anything there or not?
That's the name of your computer.
Okay.
Probably, or maybe the name of your hard drive.
Well, here's my face. I don't know what to do with my face other than go to the hardware.
Go to settings and make sure you're logged into your Apple ID and it shows your phone number.
Settings. Is settings on the old one is not under system preferences, is it?
You don't want system preferences, you want FaceTime settings. It should be in the FaceTime menu.
Oh.
Every program has its own settings in its own menu.
Well, when I click on the FaceTime app, I have 8 video, 3 audio, and these are just the names of friends.
Right, that's the FaceTime window to pick who you can make a call to. If you go to the FaceTime menu and choose settings, that's what I've been trying to get you to go to.
Well, I'm just not understanding how settings applies to this window here.
Every program has its own settings.
Okay.
And the settings is in the program's own menu. So go to the menu bar at the top of the screen and go to the FaceTime menu and choose settings.
Oh. Okay, no, that's... Huh. I'm not getting it, and I went back to a regular Word page.
Get out of Word and go back to FaceTime.
Okay. And I don't see anything about settings there, just a list of 7 friends.
Go to the FaceTime menu in the menu bar at the top of the screen next to the Apple menu and before the Edit menu.
Oh, way up at the top, I see it, sorry.
Yeah, the menu bar is always at the very top of the screen.
I was using just below the top, sorry. So now it says turn FaceTime off, but it's on. And so I do not see the word settings on the drop-down.
How about preferences?
Yes.
Try that. They renamed everything without telling us.
Okay. Oh. Says I've got Apple ID as an account is enabled. I can be reached for FaceTime. My phone number is not checked. Wow.
That's why it doesn't work.
Aha. All that just for a simple little click, and then everything else now looks okay. I can start new calls from that number, and I can be reached at that number on the old phone, on the old computer.
Yep.
And if a call comes in, it might ring either computer then.
Right.
Or both, depending on what's on.
Right. Whichever computer is on, it will ring.
Okay.
And the phone settings that we went through tell it how to get which computers to send the phone call to.
Okay. And so I'll just do the same on the, well, let's see. When I click on the Finder on the new computer, I go to Applications, and then I click on FaceTime there. And let's see. And I want preferences there. But I don't see preferences. I see new FaceTime.
It's probably settings on the new computer. They changed preferences to settings 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay, well, I see another word on the new window that just opened up when I clicked on FaceTime.
It won't be in the window. It will be in the menu bar.
Okay. I'm still learning. Okay, now I clicked on there, and now I see settings. Okay. And I can be reached at, and I can make calls from. Well, I have to use my iPhone cellular account to make and receive calls when my iPhone is nearby. So I do not generate calls from, in both cases, I generate the calls from the iPhone, but I can be reached at either. Is that the thing that
and you
was not clicked on the old one is on the new one already.
right, and you can generate calls from the computer if you want to.
What would? Okay, and that does show on the new computer. That is clicked that I can do that. So how do I do that?
You have to have that person in your address book,
Okay.
and then you can click them and make an audio call or a video call.
The address book would be under the contacts icon.
Yes. They changed the word address book to contacts a few years ago.
So if I click on that keypad icon for contacts, and I find that person, where on that page do I click?
The phone number.
The phone number will show there. I just click on that phone number that shows up.
You click the phone icon to make a phone call. You click the camera icon to make a video phone call.
Okay. Well, I think that you have answered the basic issues there. And when I'm in the middle of a call, I find if I try to do something on the computer while I'm calling, sometimes it cancels the call.
Yeah.
Which can be a real problem if I've waited 30 minutes for the other people to answer. And
So
is there anything?
Don't do anything else. The computer can't handle doing too much at once.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's the only solution I could think of, but you know so much that I don't know, but there is no other solution beyond that.
How fast is your Wi-Fi network?
Well, that's something interesting. I find that we have been billed for 500 and Spectrum brags we're up to 600, but the modem that they rented to us only can handle 300.
All right. What about the Wi-Fi?
Well, I think that that's the limitation on the Wi-Fi because my Wi-Fi operates by an expander coming up by an extension cord from that modem.
Oh, so you've got a modem and a router in one box?
I think they are separate boxes, but that's on the first floor of where I am, and I'm up on the third floor. And so I got a Buffalo brand expander at the end of an extension cord from downstairs. And that's what provides my Wi-Fi.
So the farther away you are, the worse the signal is. And you generally need to use the same brand extender as your main router.
Oh, that's interesting. No, I got this one from MicroWorks.
Yeah, cross brand, it doesn't work as well as using the same brand.
So I wasn't even sure whether we should continue renting the modem and router from Spectrum because of the way that they have charged.
The modem is free. The router you rent. You could buy your own router system and have faster and better internet and better Wi-Fi, but then you have to maintain that router yourself. That's sort of the trade-off.
Is there much difficulty in maintaining it?
Generally, no, unless there's a problem, and then you have to know how to fix it.
Okay, well,
then you call us, and we can fix it too.
Oh, okay. So you don't carry Buffalo brand expanders, so I guess I'd have to go back to MicroWorks where we got this one and see if they have the same brand modem, or router rather.
I didn't know Buffalo made routers. We use their hard drives all the time.
Oh, okay. Huh.
We generally like the Eero brand router because they're easy to set up and use.
Okay. Well, I knew even less about computers when I got this expander.
Yeah.
So, well, you've been a great help, and if you should think of anything that can be done to stop the computer from turning off the phone call when I do something else with it, file it away in your mind, and I might have to ask the question again. Well, thank you so much for your expertise right now. This is greatly helpful because, as you know, the Sonos device I bought from you did not have microphone out. So that's on the one on the computer is the only way I can do a hands-free call, because I do not like the fidelity of the built-in speaker on the iPhone. It's just too small a speaker to have good fidelity.
Yeah, Sonos is an internet speaker. It's not designed and never has a microphone out.
Right. Yeah, all I can do with that is just take it into a different room. And I suppose if I were to get an Apple TV, I suppose the Sonos can link into that device.
No.
No?
Not easily. You could set it up as an AirPlay device, but the main purpose of a Sonos speaker is to play music from the internet.
Ah. Okay. Well, I have a pair of Bose speakers on the old iMac, and they're great, but
those are computer speakers, not internet speakers.
Oh. Oh, that's an interesting distinction. Because I got the internet over the computer.
You can probably plug those computer speakers into the phone.
Interesting. I'm not sure how the jack interface would work there, because can you plug things into the iPhone 8 that I have? I guess so.
Yeah, you can plug things into any iPhone.
Okay, I just prefer not to use that. I use an induction charger.
Let's see, did the iPhone 8 have a headphone jack, or do you need a lightning adapter?
It looks like lightning size.
Yeah, but some of them also has a headphone jack. I don't remember.
Oh.
I don't remember when they had the courage to remove the headphone jack.
Well, I've got this blue plastic protective covering, so if there is such a jack there, it should have an opening in the covering, but I don't see it.
Yeah, the iPhone 8 does not have a headphone jack.
Okay.
So you would need a lightning to headphone adapter.
Right. Okay.
And then again, I have an iPhone 8. I have a headphone jack in it.
Where is it on the phone?
On the bottom.
Okay, well, that's the one I'm looking at that looks to me like lightning jack size.
Let me check another list here.
Is Courage another name for chutzpah?
That's where I could put the charger cord, but I don't use the charger cord anymore.
Let's see. The iPhone 7 was the first 7.
My iPhone 8
to remove the headphone jack.
Oh.
So the 8 does not have a headphone jack.
Huh.
Well, this is an 8.
It has a lightning port.
Oh.
I guess you'd have to plug the headphone into the lightning port.
It is, yeah. That's the lightning port. That's not the headphone jack.
Yeah.
That's a lightning port, not a headphone jack.
Oh, you could not even put a headphone in there then.
Right.
You're talking about a quarter-inch.
Yeah, the 1/8-inch headphone jack.
Round plug.
Yeah, the 1/8-inch headphone jack they took off starting with the iPhone 7.
Okay.
But Bob has some kind of setup there he's trying to show us. I don't know what's going on.
He has lightning headphones. They don't have a headphone jack, they have a lightning connector. When Apple stopped including headphone jacks, a lot of companies started making lightning connectors. But there is like a $10 lightning to headphone adapter. You can plug any other headphones or even speakers. So Doug wanted better speakers, so he can probably plug his Bose speakers into his phone with a headphone to lightning adapter.
Yeah, I was thinking you did link the Sonos to the iPhone via Bluetooth, so I thought I could use the Sonos speaker for my iPhone.
Like done like at 10.
For playing music, yes.
Okay, all right. Well, tomorrow then. All right.
Okay, but not for listening to somebody talking on my iPhone.
Right.
Okay, good. It's helpful to know. You've got an amazing beard that I didn't see before.
Apple still sell their headphone adapter? There it is. Yes. There. And no, wrong button. I want to get to that button and share that Chrome tab. So Apple sells the Lightning to headphone jack adapter, $9.
Oh,
So that plugs into the Lightning port on the iPhone, and then you can plug any standard 3.5 millimeter audio cable into the port to get better speakers out of the phone.
okay. Well, I really appreciate your wisdom on all of this. Thank you.
Sure.
To show you how valuable your advice is, I even missed Jeopardy in order to listen to you instead.
All right.
Looks like Adam's here.
Looks like Adam's here. Yeah. Any other last questions before we move on to Adam? Or
I am, although I'm not seeing my own video. Are you seeing video from me?
yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, good. As long as you're seeing me, that's what's important.
What size screen do you have?
27-inch?
Yeah, you should be able to make the window wider to see more.
Oh yeah, no, it's just I'm black. I'm not getting video of my own. Maybe there's a self view that's turned off.
Usually the camera's all or nothing.
Yeah.
Adam, try at the bottom of the center bottom of the screen, the little blue button.
Yeah.
That's where I had to turn on my webcam.
And I've got it turned on.
And then the
Let
arrow
me stop and start again.
lets you pick which camera to use.
Yeah.
But the fact that we see you should mean...
Oh, there we go.
There we are.
I just need to start. I just need to start and stop and restart. There we go. Okay, now you can see me.
Yeah, your aspect ratio changed too when you did that.
Oh, really? Interesting. Because I'm using the iPhone and continuity camera, so it should be the highest quality camera.
It looks like it's a square aspect ratio in the software. Here, we're all squares.
Yeah.
So who's
perish the thought? Perish the thought.
So Carol is below me, and Bob is that way, and Adam is that way. So on my so everybody's screen is going to have the layout a little bit differently.
All right.
I wonder if I can focus two people. Nope, I can only focus one of you at a time. So on the YouTube stream, I can make one person a little bit bigger than the other ones. Usually the main speaker, you end up making them a little bigger.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, and then that comes through the other side too in the lounge itself. Now, if your screen isn't big enough, you have to scroll side to side to see. Not necessarily the screen isn't big enough. You got to have a big enough screen, and you got to have a powerful enough graphic processor. So on my 2015 Mac, I can only see 6 videos at a time.
Right. Yeah, I have the 2020 iMac, so I'm only getting 6 too.
Yeah. On my M1 Pro, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think that's everybody because there's 3 cameras not turned on. 13 people.
All right.
All right.
All right. Well, Doc, what are we talking about?
Oh, I don't know, Adam. There's nothing going on. I mean, you know.
Life's been really quiet. I mean, just nothing going on at all.
Not at all. Not at all.
Well,
Why don't we start with what seems to be an obvious one? Now that we all have, or at least those of us who got one, an iPhone 16, we have a few weeks of it under our belts. How do you feel about it? What are your thoughts, good and bad, and especially given the new camera controls?
So the iPhone 16, are we talking the iPhone 16 Pro, which is what I actually have?
I'm sorry, yes. I was using the generic term, yes, but you're right. The Pro is what I was referring to because that's what I have too.
Right. So I actually, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. Don't get me wrong, but I will say that I am even more recommending that people not get the Pro than last year. That the iPhone 16, like what I'm seeing Apple's changing in the Pro, whatever. So I just did a big article about the 48 megapixel macro photography, because that was one of the reasons why I got the Pro. Was that Apple said, hey, we've got a new, ultra wide 48 megapixel camera. You'll be able to take better macro photos than ever before. And I actually do this. This is actually one of my favorite things to do with an iPhone is to stuff it into a flower and get really, close up shots of that. So, the problem is, hey Bob, could you maybe mute? I'm getting a lot of back sound from you. Thank you. The problem is that it turns out that getting 48 megapixel macro photos requires manual settings. You've got to actively choose the 0.5x zoom, and you have to turn on HEIF max to use a 48 megapixel format. When you do that, you get a 48 megapixel photo, and it's not as good as the 12 megapixel ones that you take if you just don't do anything special and move close to an object. So it was really kind of disappointing. The results once I finally figured out how to do it and then started comparing the output. So, one of the big changes that Apple makes in the iPhone 16 Pro, I don't know that I don't know how it compares to the 16. To be fair, I don't have a 16 to compare, but it's certainly not a win over the iPhone 15 Pro, which I did have before. So that's one of the reasons. And they brought in the camera control button, so it's like it's across the lineup.
That was a little surprising. They brought the new feature to the low end phone.
Yeah. And the 16 gets the action button too. So not a big fan of the action button, but it just feels less and less like there's any difference for people who don't care deeply about, like, I don't even know what I'm talking about, 8K color grading, and that kind of stuff. Where the very, very high end professional video and photography features that some professionals desperately need. I'm sure, not denigrating their need for it or Apple making them, but for people who just want to take good photos and good video, really hard to recommend the 16 Pro over the 16 now.
Okay. How about the camera control, though? That's something that seems to be dividing a lot of people as to, is this a good idea? Is it not a good idea? Does it borrow too much from DSLRs with the little half push access it?
I will admit I have not. It is not my default yet. That it's just too hard to break the muscle memory of working on the screen. And so I have tried, my wife's birthday was a couple weekends ago, and we went out for a hike in this Stone Quarry Art Park near Cazenovia, New York. Great place, recommended highly if you're ever near Syracuse. But so taking a lot of photos, and I just forced myself to use it over and over again, and it was good, like it worked, but I didn't feel like, oh wow, this is just better than other ways I have done it. And people have said, like, oh, it feels like you're going to move the phone more. I'm not sure about that, but it does feel like it. Because you're squeezing, so in theory you shouldn't be moving, but it is a little bit more of a motion than like touching the screen forward would have been. So I will admit I'm not as I don't think it's an unalloyed, obvious, like, wow, everyone should use this success.
I ask because, well, for one thing, are you, I don't know, I should know this about you. Are you left-handed or right-handed?
Right-handed.
Okay, so I'm left-handed, and so I'm having to sort of relearn orienting.
You have to hold it like this.
Well, not quite, but I'm having to learn to go a little more ambidextrous and use my right hand to control it. And the more I use it, the more it feels, relatively natural. So I'm kind of working on that. I'm still struggling because on a normal DSLR, you do that little half click or half push, and to do the focusing, and
Right.
that feels fine. For right now, and I don't think my fingers are that big. It feels like we just need it to be a little bit bigger, maybe.
Oh,
but
interesting.
overall, I like the idea that now I'm not dedicated to either the pinch and zoom, which I detest, or just hit the button and have it zoom in or zoom back out. I can gently pan in and pan out as I'm learning to do it.
Yeah, so I very much fall into the category of just using the preset numbers. So I'm just like, oh, 1x, 2x, now 5x. And wow, 5x is a lot bigger than I was used to with the 3x from the iPhone 15 Pro. So I've had to hit 5x and go, ooh, guess not, and then go to 2x. So I don't generally go the intermediate ones, and that's part of the change. The one thing I did have trouble with is, man, you do the half press and then you start moving into the other modes or the other things you can control. Getting out of those is tricky. That I literally have not figured out how to get out of it reliably. So that if once you're you're into the f stops or whatever, I try I really want to force quit the camera app to get it back to normal. Because I cannot figure out how to turn off whatever I've done in the camera control. So that's been the main thing there. And I realize I can turn some of that stuff off in the settings, and I need to do some of that because I'm not the sort of photographer who wants to mess with all the manual controls, generally speaking. I would like the focus lock, which I believe Apple has said is coming in a future version. So we can hope that does indeed give us some of that standard DSLR behavior.
Okay. What else? I mean, my experience so far has been pretty flawless with it. Just aside from getting used to that new way of taking pictures. But other than that, it's been fine for me.
Overall, it just works. I mean, again, it may not be a huge upgrade from the iPhone 15 Pro, but it doesn't have to be. Other than weird people like us who sort of need to know what the new stuff looks like, no one should be upgrading from an iPhone 15 to an iPhone 16. There's no need. That's not that different. And so that kind of thing is not really that big a deal. The one thing that I did just spend a bunch of time yesterday playing with, and I absolutely adore, is messages via satellite. So this is available to anyone with an iPhone 14, 15, or 16 of any type. And not the iPhone SE third generation, which sort of came out rough that time, but the 14, 15, and 16. And I'm actually, after testing this and frankly seeing what just happened to the Eastern Seaboard with Hurricane Helene, the advice in the article is if you live in the U.S. and Canada and have an iPhone 14, 15, or 16, upgrade to iOS 18 right now. You should have access to this. This is basic disaster preparedness because no one expects to be out of cell coverage. That's not the point. The point is that sometimes things go really, really wrong. And if it doesn't have to be emergency SOS, right? We've had that for a couple of years. We've had roadside assistance for a year. A lot of times, how many of these people who have been completely out of contact in North Carolina, which, half of the cell sites in North Carolina were down as of, I guess, a week ago on the 1st. That was when I last looked. FCC has some reporting on that. So, people were out of power and out of cell service for days and days and days. They don't need to call emergency. They just need to tell their friends and family who's not there that they're okay, right? That's a really simple thing to do. If you can just get a text message out, and you can do that via satellite. And, because the satellite's going to be available even if everything else is, dead and gone. So, similarly, I don't know about where everyone else is living. Rochester's possibly a little bit better than Ithaca, but it's really easy to get out of cell service here. I went for an 8-mile bike ride, and to my usual spot to test dead zone for cell, where I know there is just nothing. And it's really pretty common around here. So again, like if I am out on the bike and I get a flat tire, or something goes wrong, and now I can just text Tanya. I'm not going to call emergency dispatch because I blew a tire, and I'm certainly not going to call AAA. But if I can if I can text Tanya and say, hey, I'm here, can you come get me? That's worth something to me. Yeah.
So there was a story in the news a couple of weeks ago. Someone had got lost in the woods or somewhere, and he apparently got a message out that he was lost. Because one of the tips has always been, if you're lost, change your voicemail message. So I'm lost, come get me. So then when your battery dies on your phone, because you always forget to charge it before you go hiking, someone who calls you is going to get this message. So rescuers were trying to call him, but he didn't answer the number because he didn't recognize it. So he was delayed getting rescued by days, I think it was. Which is crazy.
There's times when you should just pick up all the damn calls.
Yeah.
It's probably not a telemarketer this every time.
I'm not sure that's not a case of needing to thin the herd a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, he missed out on his Darwin Award.
Yeah.
Really. So the messages via satellite, it works really well. I mean, you basically you have to turn it on, so you have to be in SOS mode, right? You have to SOS at the top of the right corner of the screen. It may or may not show a satellite. I still haven't quite figured out when it shows the satellite icon up there and when it doesn't, but it will always say SOS. And you turn it on when prompted in messages, or you can go into settings and turn it on there because the satellite option shows up in settings. And then it's so much fun because it has you literally find the satellite. You're and it's turn to the left, no, a little back to the right. You're bing, and then and then it finds it, and then you can just start using messages like you would normally. And there's some various oddities in terms of if the people who you're texting are using iOS 18, then it's iMessage, and you get 500 characters, and the communications are encrypted. And if they're not using iOS 18, this is where I'm not quite sure. If they're using 17.6, they can use SMS, where you have 140 characters per message, and they're not encrypted. And if they're not using an iPhone at all, it's again SMS, so 140 characters and not encrypted. I don't know what happens if they're using iOS 16. I personally think it's going to turn into just normal SMS, but maybe not. I don't know. It's a good question. I haven't been able to find someone using the right version of the operating system to test that. It just works.
One of the questions about that is right now Apple's paying for it, and when the 14 came out, they said we're going to pay for it for 2 years. Well, that 2 years is up, and they're still paying for it.
So they did extend that. So that even with the 14, I forget a year or so ago, they announced that the 14 was extended for another year. So November 2025 is the new cutoff date for people who bought the 14 when it first came out. Obviously, if you buy a new phone, it's the same thing. It's just 2 years. They're still promising 2 years from the iPhone. If you bought an iPhone, any iPhone 14, 15, or 16, because there's various ones are still available. You buy any of them, you still get 2 years of service. So yeah, the whole question of whether they're going to charge for this and how, Apple just seems to be kicking the can down the road each time. And to an extent, messages via satellite feels like a little bit more of something you could charge for, as opposed to the emergency SOS and the roadside assistance, which would be a really bad look to be, oh, I'm so sorry, we didn't rescue you because you hadn't paid us. So that feels like a harder thing to charge for. Whereas maybe the messages via satellite is something that after 2 years, if you've used this, you should probably and you want to keep it, get it as part of iCloud Plus, maybe. That it could be one of those kinds of things where it's just an add-on.
One of the other tricks I had read is for airplane people, the people who fly, don't pay for the overpriced airplane Wi-Fi. You can use the satellite messaging to send quick messages that way. Because you're closer to the satellites than you are to the Wi-Fi tower.
So I did. Allison Sheridan did send me something. She was on a plane, and she tried to connect to the satellite, but it didn't work. So I don't know. I don't know if maybe you're moving too fast so that you can't actually like lock on to a satellite or whatnot. But it was, yeah. I don't know if that's a solid thing that will work. But it's certainly worth a try. I mean, I'll try it next time I'm on a plane. Damn, for sure. I mean, part of it is you have to be outside of SOS. You have to be outside of cell and Wi-Fi, and so obviously if just going into airplane mode is not enough. And so I don't know if you can necessarily get into the appropriate SOS mode on a plane without that. But we'll see.
The metal skin may block the signal anyway.
Yeah, mostly they like you to turn off your phones on planes, not because they actually mess with the plane, but because they light up multiple cell towers below and actually cause confusion in the cell network. So it's less of a safety issue and more of a network confusion issue, generally speaking. That said,
some of the navigation beacons operate on similar frequencies, and it can affect that.
Could be. I mean, I actually had a friend who he was flying from Newark to Denver, and the plane was delayed and delayed and delayed, and there was a guy who was talking on the phone, and finally they get to go wait in line to take off, and the guy keeps talking on the phone, and the airline attendants come by and say, please sir, you got to turn that off, and he doesn't, and he refuses, and after it, but they're like, okay, and they take the whole plane back to the gate and kick him off. I don't know what else happened to him, but there are people like that who just will not take no for an answer, and so the whole plane was delayed like another 2 hours. The guy might have gotten lynched if he'd stayed on the plane. So,
Adam, I'm curious. Talking through the whole emergency part of it, if Apple did decide to charge. What do you think the logistics are of in the situation we're in right now, with Milton bearing down on Florida, of saying, hey, you know what? These are areas that are going to be potentially hard hit. We're going to turn on this service for everybody in that area.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of I just think charging for the emergency stuff in general is going to be problematic. I mean, as it is, Apple gets huge amounts of positive PR. I mean, like the people whose lives were saved by emergency SOS via satellite in Maui during the wildfires, or the people who run off a road somewhere in the Sierra Nevadas and they have to the only way they're rescued is because of this thing. And simultaneously, as soon as they start, if they put it behind any kind of a paywall, and it ever gets in the way of someone being rescued, it's just horrible PR. I mean, that's the kind of stuff you can't unless you can't recover from because whatever. But it's just the kind of thing I can't see Apple ever do it. And one of the things I have seen, like if you get rescued from a mountain, like if you're skiing or something like that, and they have to send a helicopter to rescue you. You'll get charged for that, but after they rescue you, right? So I mean, it's not inconceivable there could be a after the fact charge, but even that just doesn't feel like Apple. It feels like this is the sort of thing that Apple would be happy to just take the credit for all of these, saving everyone's lives, and then figure out whether it's messages or maybe some other feature they've got coming up for us, in future years. That's what we'll charge for. And everyone will still have access to emergency SOS and roadside assistance so that we can never get bad PR for not being allowed to call 911.
Did you hear about the private helicopter groups that showed up in North Carolina to help rescue people? Some of them were organized by Greg Biffle, the race car driver. They had like 50 private helicopters that could fit into smaller locations than the big Blackhawks and Chinooks. And there were stories for the first couple of days about rescuing hundreds of people and delivering tons of food. And then a story came out about a guy that rescued someone It was a husband and wife. He could only fit the wife. Left his son behind to keep the husband um, uh, 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 not alone. Took them
Right.
back into town to deliver the lady at the staging point, and the fire chief came up and threatened to arrest him for doing rescues because he wasn't properly following channels. And it was just ridiculous. They ended up interviewing a city official, and she kept stating that he didn't follow procedures. He didn't follow procedures. Well, he wasn't asked to come. Well, half an hour later, he was asked to come. Did he get the training he needed then? Did he follow procedures? So then they go back and talk to the pilot again. So he he went back to get his son and had to tell the husband, "I'm sorry, I can't rescue you because they threatened to arrest me." But he went back to get his son anyway. That the guy could have. He said he. No,
Yeah.
does a fire chief have the ability to arrest someone? That's another part of it. Yeah. So they interview him. Are you going to go back and help? Well, yeah. A lot of these people need help. So maybe I'll go to a different town. You know. But turning away rescuers. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was talking to my sister who does scuba diving, and she was saying that Chuck, it's really common for boats now to all have satellite phones, because, again, why wouldn't you? If this technology exists and you're stranded out in the middle of the ocean, you very well might want to call the Coast Guard.
And they're not
And
prohibitively
so
expensive anymore.
they're not prohibitively expensive, but you still have to have the phone and the plan. Whereas, if you can get an iPhone that will do the same thing for free on top of whatever, you're going to have the iPhone anyway. That's a hard thing not to take up on. So, anyway, I just recommend everyone give it a try if you get a chance. Apple has a satellite connection demo that you can activate by going into Control Center and tapping the satellite button. So it's kind of fun to give it a try, see how it works. And, I said, if you're ever in an SOS area, you see your phone giving you the SOS thing, text someone, take a minute and see how it works. If nothing else, you can, there's a whole lot of fun. And it's like, hi, I'm actually coming to you via satellite right now. And people will get a kick out of it because they will see on the other end, at least if they're iPhone users, they'll actually know that you're using satellite. If they're just SMS people, I think it just comes through as an SMS, so they don't see anything different.
It's like back in the 80s when cell phones first started getting popular. Look at what I'm calling you on. Wow, guess. I had that big Motorola brick.
Yeah, really.
We never did that kind of thing. Come on.
So that's the big thing that I've been working on. I said I had a slightly tricky time with some of the new iOS 18 and macOS 15 stuff, because when the betas came out, I wanted to test the Apple Intelligence features, and so I jumped to 15.1 and 18.1. So I haven't been paying as much attention to the release versions that have been out because I'm still on the betas. But that said, I will say that whether or not Apple Intelligence, I don't think Apple Intelligence is gonna change the world. There might be some cool stuff, but what I'm seeing in 18.1 and 15.1 right now, it's just features. You get summaries of your notifications now. You get summaries in Mail, and there's a cleanup feature in the Photos app in iOS. So they're nice little features, but you don't think, oh wow, this is Apple Intelligence. It's not as branded thing where you feel like you're talking to ChatGPT. It's a completely different world. So, yeah.
So I'm gonna say someone on Macworld, I forget if it was Andy or Jason, had said that you see the new Apple commercials about how great this cool Apple Intelligence thing is. It can do all this magic stuff. People are going to buy these iPhones and don't have those features for 6 months maybe. So,
Yeah.
How much bad press is that going to get?
I haven't seen a lot of people complaining about it, but again, it's for the most part the features are not the kind of thing you're going to miss in a big way. Who notices if their notifications aren't summarized? It's not that big a deal. And and the cleanup feature in Photos, it's pretty cool, but it's not like this is something you have to use on every photo. I have heard some. I haven't, like put it through its paces really, really hard. But I take, I do cross country races, as people may know, and I take pictures of our team members who win awards, and they're almost always standing in front of a table. There's speakers and there's people behind them and whatnot. So there's always things in the photo which are kind of messing it up. And so it's been kind of fun to use cleanup to take out some of the more egregious background material. To clean up the photos a little bit. Some people have, I've seen a couple of these and said, "Oh, well, that's not, the best, job you could do." I'm like, yeah, but I'm not trying to do the best job. I'm trying to do something to make it a little better. And so it's nice, but is it world changing? No, not at the moment.
And you didn't spend 20 years learning Photoshop.
Yeah.
Which is not.
If I remember correctly, some of the first Apple Intelligence features are going to come at the end of the month, I think it is, or is it next month?
It should be fairly soon once 15.1 and 18.1 ship. So I mean,
the website says fall.
Yeah, Apple's not going to commit to a specific date ahead of time, unless they. I could see them linking it with, like, if they do a new Mac announcement in late October or early November. It's often like third week in November, or third week in October, I think, is often what they do for new Macs. I could see them linking 15.1 to that, and then having everything else come out at the same time. So it's going to be a couple weeks. It's not going to be long, and I think, again, we're not going to have our socks knocked off. It's going to be interesting to see, but don't no one should be buying these things based on the fact they're going to get Apple Intelligence and it's going to change their lives.
We don't have it yet, so that to me is the thing. Maybe if we had some sense of it and it was taken away from us, then it would be a problem. But as it is, we're still kind of waiting to see just how amazing it's going to be.
When I have run into people who have seen the Google commercials showing how you can take that person out of the background or pull this person off, and that built into the Google Photo app. And, well, why can't my iPhone do that? Well, it can, but you need another app for now. Eventually, that's going to be built into the OS, and then those other apps, Camera Plus and Halide, they got to figure out new functions for their apps.
Yeah. Yeah. So as I said, it's going to be interesting to see. I do feel it does feel to me as though, and this has been true for a few years now, that Apple is really like firing on all cylinders when it comes to the hardware. I mean, they're just making incredible hardware right now. And it's not that the operating systems aren't improving, but I think they're just not. They don't feel like they're hitting at the same pace. So, again, I upgraded to iOS 18.1 and macOS 15.1, and they're fine. They mostly work the way you expect. It's not. I don't feel like, oh wow, my life has been changed, and that's okay. But it doesn't necessarily feel like it's matching up with kind of what Apple is saying they're doing in terms of, the Apple Silicon chips and, certainly some of the design features on the, on the iPhone cameras, for instance, that kind of stuff where it's just like, wow, this is just astonishing. So it can be a little. Disappointing isn't quite the right word, because if you have too high expectations, of course you're going to be disappointed, and that's part of the problem, is that we're being sort of set up on the hardware side to have, where's our hover cars, and on the software side it's a little bit further behind, it feels.
Shifting to a topic that I think is going to be of interest to this group, especially after listening to the Q&A earlier before you got here. You did a great article on when you should upgrade to Sequoia, or if you should upgrade to Sequoia.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how much, that was a couple of weeks ago, if you have any strong feelings about it since then. Is it a move we should make, or is it still another one of those things where we should wait for the 0.1?
The 0.1 is obviously a little tricky in some ways, right? Because we know that the 0.1 is coming soon because of Apple Intelligence features. So the question is going to be, how much has Apple cleaned up the rough edges by the 15.1? I actually just upgraded my iMac, my 2020 iMac here to 15 just yesterday, in fact, and it's been fine. Like I just haven't noticed any issues. A few more dialogues asking for permission to do things, but it hasn't been terrible. And so, I guess what I would say is kind of sticking with it. Like, if you don't use a ton of particularly old apps or weird apps, you're probably fine to upgrade anytime you want. It's only if, I really depend on this older app that hasn't been updated and the developer isn't around anymore, and I really, really care deeply, or there's this unusual app that is a huge part of my workflow on a daily basis. Those are the times you got to hold out until you're certain that those problems are not true. And we've seen kind of weird sets of bugs being reported. I just saw something, I think Little Snitch people wrote about there's some issues with the firewall. The Panorama 10 developer ran into some bugs that were causing problems for Panorama. There's a few other like very specific issues that people have hit. So that's why I don't generally recommend really quick Mac upgrades. On the iPhone and iPad side, it's just, it's much easier to recommend, hey, whenever you're getting around to it. And again, because the messages are satellite, I think you should just upgrade. It's too useful to have. The only thing I've heard, my sister was telling me, she lives out in California, and a lot of her friends' sets about half and half iPhone and Android. And apparently there are some issues with the RCS communication and messages, which is supposed to help with talking to Android users. I have very few significant communications with Android users such that I haven't noticed any issues. But apparently, if you have a lot of big group threads and things like that with mixed iPhone and RCS, there are some issues right now.
Have you seen that TV commercial for Android about basically shaming Apple for ruining text messaging for decades? And now they finally jumped on RCS, and you'll be able to send high resolution photos.
I have not, but I don't watch TV. So it is a little funny because, again, I think the people who really want it know they really want it because this is what they've been frustrated with all the time. And there's also people like me who are like, yeah, whatever. Like I literally couldn't care less because I send very little, the people I text with, I'm just texting with. And I don't really care about high resolution photos via messages, to SMS people or things like that. I get that it would be better, but it's literally not going to make a difference in my life in any way, shape, or form.
You don't have that Android friend holdout?
I have Android friends, but I don't send them anything but text, so it hasn't come up. And I totally don't understand when I look at my phone. Like half of my Android, my SMS people are my green bubble friends. Half of them are still using SMS as opposed to RCS. I don't understand why. I mean, it must be something on their end because I don't know what phones they have necessarily. So it's pretty clearly not just this panacea that when Apple supports RCS, suddenly the world will get better.
Yeah, it depends on the carrier and it depends on the messaging app you're using. We had found out this week that Verizon is shutting down their Messages Plus app and telling you to go to iMessage. And so we had an Android user come in who said, "Well, how do I get my text messages on my iPad?" And short answer we could find was you don't.
Okay, because they're only in this app, right?
Yeah, they're only right. So for Verizon was sending it as a text message and into the Messages Plus app. So you could get that on that was your text messaging app on Android. The Android lets you switch what your messaging app is. But we haven't found an easy way to get text messages on an iPad without using an iPhone to send them there. We were thinking somehow setting up Google Voice, but that gives you a new phone number. And I don't know if there was a forward your phone number to the other phone number. All of the text messaging only apps that we used to play with on the iPad give you a new phone number. WhatsApp and Telegram, they either use your email address or a new phone number. So the guy said
they're just separate.
His friend gave him an Android phone, but it's too small a screen, so he does everything on his big iPad screen. Now, how do I get my text messages to my iPad? I don't think you do.
That brings up an interesting idea. Is it possible to set up an auto forward for messages?
For
Like you can with the phone call?
Yeah, with phone calls you can. I don't know about.
Yeah, your phone calls you can.
I don't think so.
Never thought about having a need for it, but
yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Again, most of the problem, mostly what people do is they end up in one of the apps. So you use iMessage, you use WhatsApp, et cetera, and so it doesn't come up. I mean, like if you use WhatsApp, then you just switch that from platform to platform or phone to phone. But it's only an issue when you end up in this, an orphan Verizon app. So yeah, interesting.
Apparently, there's an Android app called iPhone or Message Forwarder. So then you have to let it read your messages and forward it to someone else. I don't know about that.
Sure, what could go wrong?
Yeah. Why did we do this in the first place?
Yeah.
Adam, what other experiences are you having with Sequoia? I know I'm hesitant to do it just because I've got some ongoing projects at the moment, and I really can't afford to be messing around with it. And so I don't feel like I'm missing anything at the moment, but that time is going to quickly come to an end.
Yeah, I don't think you're missing anything. The other big thing that I've been tracking a lot with Sequoia, which keeps changing, and I haven't written about the latest change, is that Apple decided in its infinite wisdom to prompt users for recurring permission for apps that require screen recording access. And the intent of this was things like Zoom and Microsoft Teams and whatnot that share the screen. And the idea is that Apple wants users to be aware that these apps have access to everything. In essence, once you give them permission to record your screen, they can record everything, and it could be a security problem.
And you said yes a year ago and forgot about it.
You said yes a year ago and forgot about it. Problem is that these things actually, well, one, if you use Zoom or all the time, of course you gave it permission. You want to give it permission, go away. And it was also affecting screen capture apps, which is a big one, and a whole lot of apps that were funny, that you didn't know why they were requesting screen recording permissions, because they were doing it for reasons that were not obvious to the user. So if they needed to visualize where controls were on the screen, that would be a reason why they'd ask for these permissions. It was totally reasonable, but it was a whole bunch of apps that were not obviously recording the screen still need the permissions. So initially, Apple started out in a scenario where you'd be asked to reapprove these permissions weekly, or every time you logged out or restarted, which was just annoying. Because basically every time once a week or more often, if you restarted your computer and you took a screenshot with a third-party screenshot app, you'd have to give it permission over and over and over again. Truly annoying. So that was in the betas of 15. Then when 15 finally shipped, Apple pulled it back to monthly and got rid of the restart and logout requirement. And that's better, but it sort of falls into the category of, well, you've made it 4 times less annoying, but it's still 12 times more annoying than it used to be on an annual basis. So again, why are you doing this? And it really seemed like just a ham-handed approach. The dialogues were badly written. They used it was like things are not using the private. They're requesting a private system picker window. Like, I don't even know what a system picker window is. Strange terminology like that. And so news has just come out that the beta 6 of 15.1 has apparently finally gotten smarter about it. So apps that you use all the time will not do this. I haven't gotten a chance to dig into it to see what if there's if there's some smarts behind it in terms of the scheduling and things like that. But again, if I have a screenshot app, I take screenshots multiple times every day. It's something I do all the time for my work, and I don't want to be asked to give it permission repeatedly, basically ever. Like this is how I use my Mac every day. It should never be asking me again if I want to give permissions to do my work. And on the other hand, as Steve mentioned earlier, you had to install this this app to do a support call with some random company a year ago, and give it permissions to record your screen so that you could show them what was going wrong during the support call, and you don't even remember what it's called. Yeah, that's a reasonable one to ask again if you launch this app again. That's where you're making you're being asked to make an informed decision. So I do get that it's reasonable to ask again in certain cases, and hopefully Apple has made a reasonable set of trade-offs there in terms of not being annoying. You should never have a button have something which basically turns into the "get my work done" button.
So that brings up something that is sort of a broader perspective. We just saw the indicted New York mayor claim he forgot his iPhone passcode.
Hate it when that happens.
Yeah, that's right. But where I was going with this is to your comments. Have we become just a bit obsessed with privacy and security? Or is it just the world we live in that has forced us into this because we feel like somebody is always watching us and trying to take our personal information and sell it to somebody else?
It's a good question. And the problem is there's so many different ways this impacts our lives. So for instance, the screen recording one, overall, to me, it feels excessive. One of the things that people pointed out is like, well, this could be useful if there was, a domestic abuser using, installing software that then would be recording the person who's being abused. And yeah, I get it. That happens or could happen. But, if this person has the capability of installing the software to begin with and presumably answering the prompt once, if it's going to happen on a schedule, you can come back and do it again. It wasn't well designed for that kind of thing. And so there's so many of these possibilities that come up that I can see why Apple's trying to protect us, but I sort of feel like the real problem comes in that we just have a governmental system which is set up to allow at most anything. That the other big news that just came out is that there's a couple of Harvard students hacked a pair of Ray-Ban smart glasses that have a camera in them. They look like normal glasses, and what these kids did, using more or less off-the-shelf software and services, is they allowed them to do facial recognition on anyone you saw, completely looked up all the information you could possibly find on the internet about these people. So they could go on a subway train and like on the T in Boston and basically look at someone, find out all their information, and then they could go and have a conversation with this person pretending like they knew them because they had and on the one hand, that's it's weird and creepy to sort of show that this is possible. But on the other hand, the reason why this exists is because it's totally fine to create systems that scrape facial pictures of people from every imaginable source and create huge databases of them that you can then tie into more or less for free.
That's my wish for smart glasses. I walk up to someone and it whispers in my ear where I knew them from, what their name is, who their kids are.
That was so. I had exactly the same thought. It kind of like, and this is the memory, jogger for all that kind of stuff, and that's absolutely true. The problem is that it also turns into that situation where the attractive woman on the subway gets followed home by the person who now knows her address. Because you can pick that up by just looking at someone. This is your home address, and all this other information sites, so it's not, it's not just necessarily what's online, really obviously. So it gets creepy fast. Or you look at someone and it tells you that they have a very high net worth, because that kind of stuff can be found online, and suddenly they're a kidnapping target. It gets really, really icky quickly. And obviously Apple and Google have not allowed things like that really on their platforms, but that's not, these kids hacked it together, really easily. And so if it's not in some way shut down more seriously, this sort of thing is just going to become more and more common, because it doesn't have to all come from Apple and Google. If you can order, smart glasses from Alibaba, from some Chinese manufacturer that have this built in, I could see that happening.
I'm going to check Alibaba right now.
Yeah. Or the worry that some company may sneak that in to a product that you don't even know is supposed to have it. Well, like the pagers in the Middle East last couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Your pagers should not blow up in your pocket. So, but yeah. So any event. So Chuck, no, I think you're absolutely right. This is an issue. It is getting to be more and more of a problem. But I think this has to be dealt with at the highest levels. I don't think there's any other solution to it, because there's got to be at least something to rely on to say this is not a useful thing to be doing. It is not a good thing to allow 17 companies to have full location information on all of us. That location privacy is just completely shot.
Okay, so boy, you just opened the door for me there. So, on a couple things. First of all, the license plate readers now, they've done away with toll booths, and now you have this surveillance system of our traffic, where yes, I might not have, at least here in my state, it's called the Easy Pass. So if I get on the turnpike or a toll road, I have an Easy Pass account, and it automatically deducts it from it. But if I go out of state and I drive through, we have toll by plate. There we go. It's toll by plate. So
and
they read my plate.
Something similar.
Yeah, they read my plate, and then a few weeks, maybe months later, I get a bill for the toll. So I'm being tracked. I mean, there's no question about it. And then I'm sure, well, maybe you didn't, since you don't watch TV, but there was a story this morning going around about one of the insurance companies' tracking devices, to give you theoretically better rates because they're monitoring your driving habits. A guy got on a roller coaster and his driving record was shot to hell because it registered the roller coaster as his driving habits.
I will admit the toll by plate stuff doesn't bother me as much, given that we're already in a governmental system of you have to get a plate from the government and you have to have a driver's license and all of that. But what perturbs me hugely is when these random commercial these random companies basically their code ends up in apps for other reasons, and then they are building these huge databases that they're selling to other companies for marketing purposes that contain all of our location. I mean, this isn't the slightest bit new. I mean, the New York Times was given a huge dump of people's locations probably 5 years ago or something, and it was astonishing the level to which they could track individual people because it was that much data. Location data is just huge, and that's the sort of thing where no one's agreeing to that. Not even implicitly by oh yes, with your insurance thing, at least this guy had signed up for it. It wasn't being put on him to do that. So
and then it shows up in the NPT data breach.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah. Right. It's right. And you can't, and with the NPD's data breach, National Public Data was the company name. I mean, no one has any relationship with these people. they don't work for you. It's not like, not like you can sue them for breaching some contract you have with them. You have no contract with them. You have no business relationship with them. They're just scraping everything that can be possibly known about you from every source, and then of course losing it on the internet. So
one of the interesting things I read about that I was on the Security Now podcast on Leo Laporte's network, is that people who had subscribed to like deleteme.com and remove my information from the internet stuff, their data was not in this breach. So a reputable company was following the law and removing data that people said they wanted removed. But when the bad guys get a breach, it's included there. Yeah. And it was like, Charlie, you had a question? Or you raised your hand at least?
Yeah. For Chuck, the guy on the roller coaster, I'm not clear about. I can imagine that they can track the location of cars and so forth, but how did they track him while he was on the roller coaster?
His particular situation was not one of the dongles that you plug into your car, but an app that is turned on your phone. And it tracks you, and so it's monitoring everything you do, and so all of a sudden he's going from 0 to 40 miles an hour in the space of a couple seconds, and then slamming on brakes, and and they showed the little map that it showed where he was doing what, and it just happened to be the same route as the roller coaster.
Well, Apple ran into that with when they did their fall detection.
The crash detection, crash detection was, it ran exactly that sort of thing. It was people skiing, people on roller coasters. I mean, this stuff is all, software is hard, and and you get into, it's hard enough for companies like Apple. You get into, insurance companies. These are not going to be the best tech people in the world. They're not hiring the best and the brightest. It's just as simple as that. And so, it's easy to see these kinds of mistakes happening. One of the things that I think is often overlooked is that, mistakes happen. Companies screw up. That's actually not a problem. You'd prefer they didn't, but nonetheless, you screw up. The real question comes in: how do you actually resolve the problems? So this guy on the roller coaster, if he had, he gets the thing saying, "Hey, your driving record sucks," whatnot, and he calls them, and they should say, "Oh, yeah, you were on a roller coaster. We're so sorry. Let me fix that for you, and give you a refund on this month's payment." Suddenly, he's happy. He's not going to the media with how horrible this is. And so I think the other thing that comes out of a lot of this is just how badly customer service is being done in large portions of the corporate world overall, but certainly in the tech industry. These companies are so large, they're not doing any kind of personalized tech support at all.
And I want to be fair too. They did talk about that he was able to go in and correct the issue. But it also, that when he talked to the company, they said, well, next time you get on the roller coaster, you should turn it off. And then somebody else brought up, well, what if I'm driving what if I'm riding and Adam's driving and he's driving like a crazy man? That app is showing that basically I'm in a vehicle and I'm driving like a crazy man when it's not even me. So now
riding like a crazy man.
Yeah, I'm riding like a crazy man. So now I have to remember, I'm going to go take a ride with Adam. I have to turn it off. Or I get in an Uber. And maybe the Uber driver's a little nuts, and now I may get tagged for it. So
badly designed.
Badly designed, and somebody's trying to rush in, and the bugs aren't worked out, but they see a way to benefit from it, and that's because I've asked that question of some of the insurance companies. Okay, I get it. You didn't build this thing, and you didn't write the software, so I'm signing a privacy agreement with you, but what is your privacy agreement for my data with your vendor? And nobody ever seems to be able to answer that question.
was a similar story on Security Now about a person who was doing one of those compare your auto insurance deals, and every company he talked to was double his current company, and so he went to his current company and said, when can I renew? And they said, well, it's going to double with us too, and they wouldn't tell him why, except, have you ever heard of LexisNexis? You might want to go look at them. And data, unrelated data had been accumulated by LexisNexis, another giant data broker, that was affecting his car insurance. And it was I forget exactly what it was, but it had nothing to do with his driving record. But it doubled his insurance, and he didn't even know that data was there until he went to renew his car insurance.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that's really too bad. I mean, this horse, out of the barn decades ago. But we really have very, very little control over our data. And this is something that's been certainly aware. I was working with a group called XNS back in the mid late 90s, and the idea was that you would be able to have this identity on the digital identity that you would control, and that everything associated with all the metadata associated with that would be under your control. And the problem is that this sort of concept of federated identity, where you can have and control your identity and move it around to wherever you want, just has never been able to catch on. And so we're in essence at the mercy of everyone who has any information about us, which is again why these breaches come up. I just got mail from Have I Been Pwned saying that yep, I was included in the 31 million records breached by from the Internet Archive being breached. I at least liked the Internet Archive, so.
I hadn't seen that one. I didn't know that the Internet Archive had been breached.
Yeah, it's just something. I just saw this just today. So but it's yeah. You were one of 31,081,179 people. In September 2024, the Digital Library of Internet Sites, Internet Archive, suffered a data breach that exposed 31 million records. The breach exposed user records, including email addresses, screen names, and decrypted password hashes. Oh, good. I mean, the problem is like, this is happening to everybody. And to an extent, like, I almost don't blame some of these companies. It's gotten really, really hard because one of the truisms about security is there's these two concepts, red team and blue team. Red team attack and blue team defend. And it's always easier to be red team. Like if you're attacking some system, trying to break into it, that's way easier than trying to defend against attacks. And so the attackers have gotten so persistent and sophisticated and whatnot that it's just harder and harder to maintain defenses against these level of attacks. I mean, sometimes they're at the level of nation states. So can you keep the Chinese government out of your server? Maybe not. It's it's as good as it gets. And so, again, I don't entirely blame some of these organizations for being breached. Some of them are just plain stupid, like NPD, where they left all this stuff sitting around in plain text. But others are like, yeah, it was a sophisticated attack. We did the best we could, and now we're hosed. That's the world we live in.
Charlie?
I don't have a good answer to that.
Yeah. Like Charlie, you had another question?
Yeah. One pre-question is, were you lowering my hand again, or is there a timeout on that feature?
No, I lower it so it doesn't block the screen, but I do see it.
Okay. Adam and Chuck, is there any value to using one of these services that will supposedly remove your data from the internet? And if so, which ones might you recommend?
So there was some research about this. I'm forgetting who did it exactly. Not that long ago. Consumer Reports possibly. And they looked at like 19 of the services, and I think the best one was like 70% effective. And it dropped off pretty rapidly. I forget the exact one. The consensus seemed to be that it was not worth it. That you could do basically the same job yourself for not that much effort without paying them. And I think doing it yourself was more effective. That was like 80% effective. Because the problem is you submit your information to this company, and then you depend on them to go off and do it, and you don't actually know what they've done. So it's probably not going to hurt anything, but it's probably not worth certainly not worth a monthly subscription, having them go out and kind of cleaning things for you.
We had a customer.
How do I know if I have shared my data with a particular company? How do I know what other company they have contracted with to store and sell or share or whatever that data?
You can attempt to
read the fine print.
Yeah, you can attempt to read the privacy policy, but they will usually not tell you who they're specifically sharing it with. They may just say, we reserve the right to share with our partners to do X, Y, and Z. And so again, there's no way you can know. And that's part of the problem is just like, in some sense, it's game over. Like, we cannot control our information on the internet. It's as simple as that. And, the main thing that I strongly recommend that everyone do is go to the 3 credit bureaus, Equifax, TransUnion, and what's the third one? Experian, TransUnion, and I can never remember any of that. There's 3 of them, and put a freeze on your credit report. The reason why you want to do that is that any kind of big identity theft thing where they want to take out a loan in your name, or they're going to apply for jobs using your identity, that kind of thing, any of those identity theft things will trigger a credit report. And if you have a freeze on your credit reports from all 3 bureaus, they will not be able to get it, and that will block the actual problem from happening. And the credit freeze occasionally can be annoying, because if you do something like, again, like taking out a loan or certain kinds of, they'll set up a new bank account, that kind of stuff, they'll need to do a legitimate credit freeze, and you have to thaw it temporarily. So it's the sort of thing where you need to set up an account with these 3, you do the freeze, and then anytime you need to have a credit report done. Or background check's another one that can require a credit report. You have to thaw it temporarily, let it go through, and then refreeze them all.
I just posted a couple links.
I have done that. Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, I just posted a couple of links to places to give you information on how to do that. The issue is, as Adam said, is when you yourself need to get new credit. It used to be the credit agencies would charge you a fortune to freeze and another fortune to unfreeze. But then the federal government passed a law saying that it has to be free.
Yeah.
So that's
I have done
and you can also get you can actually also get a credit, actually see your credit report, I think, once a week now. Like the government was thoroughly unamused at the whole charging money to get this stuff. So Experian. What? I should remember the third one.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. And there's, at the time I did this a few years ago, I think, what was it, Krebs on security, something like that? Also mentioned a 4th one, Innova. I have done that with those, and I have had occasion to lift a freeze for like a 1-week period or whatever, and I did have these code numbers to do that, and that's what you want to hang on to. And it was easy and free, and went back on. Now, there's another thing I've heard of, though, where you sometimes get an offer of some kind of credit thing, and I asked, how can you be doing this when I have freezes on my credit reports? And the answer was, there is something called a soft touch, and presumably a hard touch or something. And so, in other words, I don't know exactly how that works, but with a soft touch, presumably they are able to find out that you do have a credit report, but they can't actually access it without your freezing or something.
Yeah, I think that's the case.
And
So, but in any event, I just recommend everyone do that. It's not going to solve the problem of your information getting out, but it's going to solve the problem of your information getting out and it being used for identity theft. The other place where I've seen that starting to pop up, which I again can warn everyone about, probably people here are savvy enough not to deal with it, but we're seeing a rise in the so-called sextortion scams. And where you get basically a spam message from someone says, "I've seen you doing naughty things because I've hacked your video camera on your computer and blah blah blah, and you have to pay me money via Bitcoin." What's different now is because so much of our information has been leaked, is it will say, "Here's your phone number, here's your address." The ones I've been getting even have a picture of like the road in front of our house. And they're all identical. I've gotten like 6 of them now, so they're all identical. So like, you're really not helping your case here, aside from the fact that I know this can't be true.
Watch what turmeric does to you.
So the point being that the scams, just in general, can now use our personal data. So you need to be a little bit more aware of, when something seems off and seems to know too much information, know your address, know your phone number. That's something you want to be careful about.
There was a episode of Mike Rowe a few weeks ago. If you remember Mike Rowe, the Dirty Jobs guy, his 91-year-old father got one of those scam messages, and his mom called him. It's great, funny podcasts in the vein of Paul Harvey. The way I heard it. Is Mike's podcast where he tells a story and you got to figure out who it's about. It's really good. And then other podcasts are interviews with other people. But so he's reading through the letter with his mom, and that was their password. And I hacked into your camera and I saw you doing naughty things. My annoyance with it is he laughed it off too much, versus warning people that this could really happen to you, because it happened to my dad.
Yeah. No, I mean it's really. I mean the claims. I mean, as I when I wrote about this, I was like, talk is cheap. Like, you can claim you know anything, and the problem is they know enough that the other things they claim they know seem more realistic. And so, they're relatively well written from the standpoint of being concerning. But again, hopefully, if you're, a more experienced internet user and you've seen these things these kinds of things come through, you'll be, savvy enough to go, oh yeah, that's just a scam, and just mark it as spam and move on.
Especially because it really is your password. He really knows one of your passwords because it got leaked in one of the other leaks.
Precisely. It's all over.
But if it was really a scam, if it really was an extortion, that they would have taken a frame or two and dropped it in there, especially, Adam, if they have the front of your house. Who cares if they have the front of your house? It's like, what exactly do you have? Send me some incriminating evidence.
Show me the video, man.
Then we'll talk.
There was a case probably a decade ago with, I think it was a internet shoe salesman company, where he would sell a bunch of shoes, collect the money, ship out crap, stop shipping stuff. People would complain, and then he would go on Google Maps, get their address, Google Street View, show them their house, and then threaten them that I'm going to come to your house, so leave me alone. And he did it for Google rankings, because Google used to rank your page based on how many mentions you had on the internet. And so he gamed it by having thousands of bad mentions. So Google didn't differentiate between good mentions and bad mentions. And so he was you look for shoes online and you found him before anyone else, because there were so many bad mentions about him.
Yeah.
And then Google fixed the algorithm.
Charlie, I want to go back and respond to something you asked. I did have one of the companies that allegedly will remove your data sponsor my show for a little while, and I tried it, and it was very interesting to see, because I started to get a weekly report on what they were deleting, and it was interesting and a little scary as to how much was out there. The problem was, though, that in a few months, it had just repopulated from other sources. And so it's almost one of those things where if you're going to go that route, you're going to have to keep up your subscription, and they're going to have to keep doing it because, I mean, Adam just told us, there's another breach. I mean, there's a breach every other week, if not more frequent.
We had a customer come into the shop, and one of her questions was that her Norton LifeLock was due to be renewed, and should she renew it? So we look at this. We look at the screen. Short answer: no. Norton LifeLock. It's horrible. But we look at the screen.
Yeah.
It was $300 a year for her.
Yeah.
If she wanted whole family-wide protection, it was like $700 a year, and we'll break it down into $50 a month for you. It's just ridiculous amounts of money they're getting to do basically nothing. Cause they remove what they can, and then, as Chuck said, it just gets repopulated with the next breach.
Yeah.
So,
and I've gotten those Norton LifeLock messages. I don't use Norton LifeLock, but they still are going to bill me.
Yeah, that's the worst.
They're going to bill me
$300.
Yeah, yeah.
But when they really,
so it's
yeah.
I'm sorry.
So, no, it just, I mean, as I said, I don't have a solution to these kinds of things. I mean, all you can do is be aware of it and not fall prey, but it's no stopping it. It's just too impossible. So even some of these, like many of these things get caught by spam filters because they're kind of spammy. But one of the things that I've seen quite a few times is people requesting money via PayPal. So they're doing it actually through PayPal. So it's legitimate PayPal mail. The whole thing's a scam, but it looks completely legit. And I got one from the Mac store or something like that, for like $1,000.89 or something like that, which is about the price of a new iPhone, right? So, and I got it, recently after, ordering an iPhone and things like that. So, I didn't fall for it, but boy, it's not hard to see someone getting confused of, oh yeah, did I actually pay for the phone? I haven't gotten it yet. Maybe I need to do this. It is the Mac store, it sounds pretty legitimate. And, there's nothing really new here. There's been scams forever, but they get more and more believable as the more information about us they can get. And they're more easily scaled. You can now, you don't have to be the guy who looks everyone up on Google Maps. You have the system that does all this, that scrapes the data and builds the spam mail and then just spews it out on the internet to see who you can get.
My boss, my boss a few years ago had one of her credit cards stolen. And when she called to report, dispute the fake charges, they said, well, can we leave it open for a while to help track the person down and catch them? And she said, okay, sure, as long as I don't have to pay those bills. And so we watched her in the scammer in New York City, went to Saks Fifth Avenue and bought expensive stuff, went to this expensive store, went to that expensive store, racking up tens of thousands of dollars because it was a company card with a very high limit on it. But when they went to Dell and bought a bunch of computers, that was the broken straw because we're an Apple dealer,
It is amazing what's out there, and I guess we just cannot stress enough that if it looks questionable, take some time to research it. And Adam, you make a great point. They've been able to get more and more of our information. It's almost to the point that now they're trying too hard to justify to appear legitimate. Yeah. As opposed, I mean, if I order something from, I don't know, that's ridiculous. I was about to say Sears, but seriously, no, not Dell. Jeez, let's not go. Thanks, Adam.
They have some nice monitors, though. They have a really nice 38-inch curved monitor.
Yeah, but if I go to buy something from Walmart's not going to try to convince me that they are Walmart. They're just going to send me the bill. It's so I feel like your advice is really good, Adam. That if they try to tell you too much about yourself, look hard.
But
put in
then
the yard.
we've run into people who get one of those fake bills, and they want to be nice and call the other end and say, "Oh, this isn't my bill. You sent the bill to the wrong person." Because we want to be nice to people. No, you have to stop being nice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, as I say, we live in a significantly trickier world than we used to in this regard. That the internet. I used to say the internet allows the amplification of the individual, and unfortunately, that now absolutely applies to spammers and scammers and miscreants of all stripes. And there's no way around it because, again, they're red teaming. It's always easier to attack, and we don't we can't even really think about living our entire lives on playing defense on this stuff because we have work to do. We have lives to live, and it is just so much easier to kind of get on with things and not have to be constantly evaluating every damn message to see if it's legitimate. But that's unfortunately what we got to do.
I read a sci-fi story years ago. I can't remember the title of the plot, but I remember one of the plot points was that everyone wore a personal scrambler on their body that would prevent cameras from taking pictures of them, and it's just everyone wore that, so no one could ever get a picture of you. You see that now on some of the cop shows where someone has an LED face mask on that blinds the camera.
Yeah. So, well, any other things getting on the late side here? Any other questions that people have or hot topics they want discussed? Deafening silence.
Take that as a no. Thanks. Adam, thanks so much. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
And Apple Cider, thank you for having us. It's always a lot of fun.
Always fun. I
you.
do miss coming up to Rochester to actually see you guys in person, but I guess we're not doing that anymore. So,
well, so the weather wasn't too bad today.
No,
but,
but there have been trips that were a little problematic. So,
but we'll have to get you up sometime for dinner. Now, where are you located again, Chuck?
Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Oh, that's only what, 5 hours?
Yeah, something like that.
When I was a kid, we'd drive to Florida. My father would get us all up at 4, because that's when he got up for work anyway, and we'd sleep in the car. And at 9 o'clock, we'd stop in Harrisburg for breakfast.
I can make a couple guesses actually of where you might have stopped. So,
yeah.
Most of which are out of business by now.
I know, yeah. That 99 corridor is kind of killing all of the things on Route 15.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, nice to see everybody.
Well,
and
Rick,
we'll
you have
do
one
it
last
again.
question?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Rick.
I was wondering about old iPads and what's the best thing to do with them. Whether there's you're just stuck recycling them, or is there a way to hack them so that they'll become useful again?
Unfortunately, usually just recycling. Once they're of a certain age, that if you're, I guess I haven't thought about whether there's like the hard and fast recommendation on age, but usually once you can no longer upgrade the operating system once or twice, then there's just not much else they can do. We still have an original iPad Air that Tanya uses to read books on. It's all it does is use Libby, and that's fine. But she actually prefers it to she has a newer iPad Air too, and she prefers the one that she used, the old one, for reading books because it has a nicer case. Mm-hmm. That's literally the reason for it.
I've got an old iPad 2 that I use as a clock next to the television. Because when we got rid of our cable box, we lost the clock in the living room. So that's all it is a clock.
Yeah.
I just threw an article from Apple Insider into the chat that has some ideas. I remember reading this and thinking, these are some pretty good ideas, depending on how old your iPad is. And Adam, to your point, as far as using it with Libby, if you have any concerns about putting it on the internet.
Yeah.
Turn your Wi-Fi off and load it with something, and then turn it off and never turn the Wi-Fi back on, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, I don't worry too much about.
Oops, we lost him. He was
I think
worried
we
too
lost
much.
Adam.
It's one of the scammers. They got his password and
Yeah.
signed him off.
I guess it was time for him
Oh.
now. Time for him to leave.
Yeah.
His internet went
Yeah.
down because we were talking about disconnecting from the internet.
Yeah. Well,
I know
anyway,
some people use their old iPads just to display pictures.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
like
a picture frame. Yep.
the picture frame. Yeah.
yeah, and look, that's a completely legitimate use. I'm not sure what Adam was going to say, but I know how I feel about putting. Oh wait, I think he's
I got
back.
back. Closed the wrong window. I was like, whoops.
Ooh.
You were saying, Adam.
I was just going to say, like, iPad, iOS and iPadOS, you know, obviously the older you get, the more likely it is that there are security problems. But, you know, if you're not doing anything else, if you're just using it to read books or whatnot, it's not going to be that big of a deal. You know, these are, you know, you don't want to take this to when you go on a trip to China, but, you know, but just for like an iPad that sits around your house and works with a clock or whatnot, it's hard to get too stressed out about that kind of thing.
Or take it to China and leave it there.
We have a contact at the Monroe Developmental Center that we donate old iPads for the Autistic Center. We work really good with autistic children, and we have another contact who has a school in Costa Rica. But they've started getting a little pickier about what they want donated. It has to be a recent enough OS to be safe on the internet.
Yeah, and that's you know, for any kind of significant use, that's really your problem. Is at some point, plus, you know, at some point, like the browsers stop working because their certificates don't work anymore and stuff like that, or you know, websites won't load. So, you know, as I said, it just depends on how much effort you want to go to. You know, it's always, if you can give it away, great. You know, if someone's got a use for it, or, you know, Ithaca has, like, we have the Finger Lakes Reuse Center, for instance, which, you know, just takes stuff and, you know, and makes it available. But a lot of the times recycling really is the easiest way to go once it's old enough.
Okay, thank you for answering that question.
Yeah.
Nice to see you, Adam.
Always nice to chat. And we'll hopefully see you guys again soon.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
Hopefully.
And I think
Good night.
with that,
Ciao.
we'll close this meeting of Apple Cider. Next, this coming Saturday is our green apples. Give Bob Hoey a call, phone number on the website if you want to come. And next week is our board meeting. You're welcome to come to sit in on the board meeting, see how we do things, and then you'll get elected to the board. Election season is coming up soon. All right. So we'll see you all next month. Thanks for coming.
Thanks. Take care.
Yep. Bye-bye.